Girlfriend is boring sometimes, but its main aspect that holds it back is its pacing, along with some not so great characters. There are some genuine strengths the series has, and I think it had potential to be a decent series. There are some bland and uninteresting characters, although there are some decent ones too. There are things in Girlfriend that certainly surprised me, both good and bad. Overall, it's still a bad series, although I'll be generous and give it a 4.61 out of 10. Well, that's what I had to say about Girlfriend back when I first reviewed it about 3 years ago. However, since both season 2 and its manga have ended, I decided to sit my white hiney down and rewatch it. To my surprise, I ended up enjoying it more on a second watch and would even go as far as to say I actually overall like the series now. Anyway, since I already reviewed season 1, this first section will be more of a re-review. I'm going to go over points I made in my last video and say whether I still agree or now disagree with them. If you're interested in watching my original review, I'll leave the link to it in the description where you can watch it on Rumble. Unfortunately, it's not available on YouTube anymore because Kamala Harris banned it for being too spicy goodness like a boss. Anyway, let's get on with why Boyfriend is not so bad.
How bad can I be? What do I like? Ripe bananas.
Bananas?
I'm a banana!
So Girlfriend centers around our main character Mukai, who is dating the red-haired maiden Saki. However, one day after school, he meets a blue-haired chick named Nagisa, and no, not that one. Anyway, Nagisa reveals that she's a futanari since she has a fat sack of balls and...
Will you see? I love you!
Mukai says that he can't go out with her since he already has a girlfriend. However, a minute later, he suggests that all three of them go out at the same time. So he asks Saki and her response is
Falcon Punch!
But then after some convincing, Saki agrees, so now Mukai is dating both Nagi and Saki, or as I like to say, Nagasaki. Anyway, the premise is extremely stupid, but also unique. There aren't many harems that begin with its main characters going out, and there's definitely no harems that begin with their main character going out with two girls. Series like To Love Ru have a shit ton of girls fawn over the main character, but again, they aren't actually dating. So this is something that's both new and interesting, and for the most part, it ends up working. The reason I say for the most part is because there are still some notable flaws. The biggest being its pacing, which I complained about a lot before, and unfortunately, it's still an issue. That being said, it's not as bad as I remember it being, although again, it's clearly a problem. Despite having a fun premise, not a whole lot actually happens during the first 12 episodes. Mukai starts going out with Nagi and Saki, a new girl Rika falls for him, and later Saki's best friend Shino finds out that the three of them are dating. Obviously, I'm leaving out some stuff, but that's a basic summary of the first season. Now, I've said this before, but basic plots aren't inherently a bad thing as long as the show is entertaining, and again, overall it definitely is. But again, its pacing is a notable problem since there's some scenes and even episodes that move at a snail's pace. For example, there's the last 3 episodes where everyone goes to a hot springs hotel and tries to prevent Shino from finding out that they're dating. There's some fun and genuine good moments, such as when Mukai and Rika are together and when we see Nagisa's backstory. However, the problem is that a lot of these scenes didn't need to be this long. The entirety of episode 11 takes place in this one bath area, and again, it drags on for so long. There's also the last episode where a third of it centers around Mukai chasing Nagisa. It's not awful or anything, but it was still pretty slow and kinda boring. Like I said, a lot of the series is very slow paced, but for the most part, I don't mind this. That's because its characters aren't half bad, plus it's pretty funny too.
I swear the second you let go, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you!
Not if I shit first!
Not literally!
There were funny moments that I've remembered enjoying before, but for whatever reason I found a good majority of the jokes funny on my second watch.
Look! Saki and Nagisa are being harassed by delinquents!
Where? Oh shit!
It's not the funniest rom-com ever made or anything, but there's definitely enough jokes that land where I can say that overall it's a good comedy. For example, there's Mukai refusing to go out with Rika because he already has Nagi and Saki.
I don't care about your cheek cups. I'd rather squeeze the boobs of a girl I like!
Both of them are insanely stubborn. Rika camps outside of his house for days, but Mukai still refuses to go out with her. Normally I'd be pissed at a harem protagonist turning down best girl like this, but this is a big exception. Both Mukai and Rika are so fun, mainly because of how stubborn and stupid they are. Rika's only obsessed with Mukai because she's angry that she got rejected. Meanwhile, Mukai doesn't want to go out with her because he thinks that won't be fair to Nagi and Saki. Like, what the fuck? You're already cheating on both of them. Another girl girl being added isn't going to make things worse. They're already an asshole for going out with 2 chicks anyway.
I'm an asshole! Why would you trust anything I say?
Yeah, that's another thing that's so great about Mukai. He's so honest and over the top about everything. He outright calls himself an asshole and realizes that what he's doing is wrong, but still does it anyway. It's hard to get mad at him since he's so stupid and honest. Once Rika leaves his house, he starts thinking that maybe there's a chance she's in love with him. Nagi and Saki don't want him to date her too, so they lie and say that the reason she blushes around him is because she's in heat. And of course, being the retard that he is, Mukai believes this and it's pretty funny.
I know it's not about me. You're just horny.
Nigga, what?
The thing that blows my mind even more is that apparently this, as well as Mukai being dumb in general, was something I complained about before. Maybe I didn't find it funny back then or took it too seriously, but either way, I can't believe I didn't like this scene. Nagisa falling in love with Mukai was also something I criticized, which was kind of dumb. Nagisa fell for Mukai because she spent countless hours trying different things, however she never seemed to get better. Then she met Mukai and saw that he's been trying to get into Saki's pants for years, but has failed time and time again. However, despite failing so many times, Mukai continued to crave for Saki's nectar and never gave up, which is what attracted her. Is it sort of dumb and unrealistic? Yes, but then again, this is the same show where its main character dates 2 girls and openly calls himself an asshole. This series is very stupid and over the top, so something like this is perfectly fine. However, when it tries and takes itself super seriously, like in the next scene where Mukai chases her, it kind of fails mainly due to it being slow. Anyway, both its characters and comedy are something that I enjoyed notably more on my rewatch. Part of that might be due to the series getting dubbed, so hearing all these jokes instead of reading them works notably better. The dub isn't great or anything, in fact it's pretty average, but dubs over subs, baby. One aspect that I can't defend though is its art, because oh boy, this has to be one of the worst looking harems I've ever seen. Before I complained about its first episode looking awful because of how the colors look during most of it. There's some scenes that take place around sundown, so they have this slight orange Breaking Bad tint to them and they look kind of weird. They don't look terrible, but I still wouldn't say they look good. This was probably just a nitpick and I was making a much bigger deal out of this than it actually was. Anyway, the big problem though was both its animation and its character design. As for its animation, it looks pretty bad. I mean, just look at this.
Okay, listen.
The movement is so jarring, there's no in-betweens here, and this was also in the first episode, which is always supposed to be one of the best looking ones. Wow, that looks like donkey diarrhea mixed with spider sperm. There's also a notable amount of smears. They look awful and were clearly done as a cheap way to avoid animating the characters. However, by far the biggest problem with its art is its characters and how they're more off-model than they are on-model. Of course, not every episode and scene looks bad, but there's a good amount of shots that look hilariously bad.
If she won't do it, I have to do it for her. That's the only way.
What the fuck? Why would you zoom in on his face? He looks so retarded.
3, 2, 1.
Counter-terrorists win.
But yeah, a lot of the faces look pretty bad, and that especially goes for Mukai. I still have more than 20 pictures of his beautiful face saved on my hard drive because they're so funny to look at. The other characters are off-model at times, but still, Mukai is by far the best and the funniest. Anyway, another aspect is its soundtrack, and there's a handful of tracks that sure are something. They got One Winged Angel.
Walk me through your thought process here.
Okay. Well, I can't date both of you in secret because that would be dishonest.
Some weird-ass Mexican music.
So, see ya.
This one super over-the-top track.
Time to run.
Right, okay. Hurry up, Maya!
Coming.
Hold it right there!
They even got Mozart too.
Why'd you up and leave like that?
Saki.
You can tell me.
Anyway, there's not much else to say about its first season. The pacing is pretty slow, it's kind of inconsistent, and its art is shit, but thankfully its characters and comedy make up for its shortcomings. Season 1 of Girlfriend is actually alright, which is why I'm giving it a 6.33 out of 10.
I got bitch.
So, season 2 was pretty much exactly what I thought it'd be. On MyAnimeList, it's rated notably higher than season 1, so I'd figured it'd at least be a slight improvement, which it was. For starters, there's its plot, which is more or less the same. The story picks up right where season 1 ended, with Shino finding out about Mukai dating both Nagi and Saki. Because of this, Shino decides to move in with them so she can make Mukai dump Nagi and then get down and dirty with Saki. Later on, Rika moves in with them and has 5 months to make Mukai fall for her, otherwise she'll be forced to give up on him. They all then go to Epstein's Island, where Shino ends up confessing that she loves Mukai. There's some other stuff I'm leaving out, like how Saki finally kisses Mukai, but besides that, the plot is still pretty basic, which I'm mostly fine with. Unfortunately, there's still some scenes and episodes that are weaker and slower, but at least there's less of them, so it's not as big of a problem. Another issue that's seen a notable improvement is its art, since season 1 looked like dog shit. Thankfully, season 2 looks notably better, although that's really not saying much. At best, it looks passable, but it's still a very average looking harem anime. The main takeaway is that characters are usually on model now, especially Mukai, plus it's slightly better animated as well. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm slightly disappointed that the art improved, mainly because Mukai's dumb faces are now gone, and that was part of the charm of season 1. But it's hard to complain about this, since not even 30 seconds into the season, we see a close-up of his dumbass face again. Anyway, one thing that surprised me about this season was how much focus there was on Shino. Despite not doing anything until the last few episodes of season 1, she's probably the most important character here. She gets a bunch of screen time, and a lot of the season centers around her struggling to give up on Mukai, but of course it ends up failing. Most of the characters get some kind of development here, but again, Shino clearly gets the most. Now I say most because Nagisa doesn't really get to do a whole lot here. She does have scenes with her and Mukai, but nothing really comes from it. The most that happens is that they hold hands during the fireworks, but yeah, that's about it. Despite being the second main heroine, she feels more like a side character here, which is really weird. Rika and Shino get more attention than her, but that's probably because they actually get to do something relevant to the plot. Shino ends up being alone with Mukai and kisses him, and Rika kidnaps him not once, not twice, but 3 goddamn times. And 2 of those times were because she Bill Cosby'd him.
Nigga, what? Nigga, what?
Yeah, so as you can tell, the series is just as funny as before. Not every joke lands, but there's a decent amount of great jokes.
I don't watch those anymore. I've unsubscribed from your channel.
I can't tell if this is supposed to be taken seriously or not, but either way, it's fucking hilarious. They're supposed to be having a serious moment, but again, I can't take it seriously because Mukai rejects her by saying he unsubbed from her YouTube channel. Rika starts crying her eyes out since she got rejected again, and normally I'd feel really bad for her, but because this all stems from Mukai unsubscribing from her YouTube channel, I can't because it's so fucking stupid and over the top. This is one of the highlights of the season, but there's also a bunch of other great moments too.
What about this? Busted hits, Mint!
She's going to kill you. Do you want to watch the fireworks with me? Do not ignore me!
You want to take my V card?
If that's what your intentions are.
Oh, riz me up, huh? Don't worry about it.
Jealous us! Guess I'm about to have a wilderness mukbang.
Anyway, there's not much else to say about season 2 since it's more or less the same, although with some slight improvements. Not great or anything, and still has some issues, but still alright, which is why I'm giving it a 6.69 out of 10.
Watch out!
What you say?
Well, that was season 2, so now it's time to take a look at the manga. I'm very curious to see how well it is, especially its ending. I'm 90% sure Mukai picks Saki, although there's an extremely small chance he chooses Nagisa or Shino instead. I'm also scared that it's going to be a harem ending where no one wins and he decides to keep dating all of them. That would be very annoying, but I highly doubt that'll happen. Anyway, let's see if the manga is spicy goodness like a ball. sauce.
The book of Sega Genesis.
Hot damn hot water, hot shower.
Well, I read the manga, and it sure was something alright. If you're interested in reading it, or at least want to continue from where the anime left off, then start at chapter 92. There might have been like one or at most two quick filler chapters that weren't in the anime, but that's about it. The manga is basically the exact same, so you won't be missing anything. That being said, there are some minor things I noticed while reading these chapters. First off is that the first season adapted up to chapter 36, meanwhile season 2 adapted the following 55 chapters. Season 1 felt notably slower, and that's most likely due to it adapting less chapters. Then again, some of these chapters are kinda short since there's a good handful of pages where there aren't a bunch of panels and dialogue to read. Because of this, you can easily get through some of these in less than 5 minutes. Again, not every chapter is short, but I was still able to read about 10 chapters per hour. Anyway, the one aspect I immediately noticed while reading is its art, which is actually pretty damn good. The first handful of chapters might look slightly worse than the rest, but that's only because the art improves as the series goes on. Character designs are solid, they are always on model, it's a very good looking series. It's kinda crazy how much better this looks in the anime, or mainly season 1, since that looked like... Anyway, like I said, there's not much to say about the first 91 chapters since they're exactly like the anime, so I guess it's time to go into manga only territory, which means I'll be spoiling the rest of it. You have been warned. So the next 30 chapters are basically what you'd expect from the series. It's still mainly a harem rom-com that has a very simple and light plot, although there are some developments throughout it. The first half of these chapters center around Mukai studying to get the top grade on the school's next big exam. If he manages to do this, then he'll prove to everyone how serious he is about two-timing Nagi and Saki. While this is the main plot for about 15 chapters, a lot of it is still dumb filler chapters that don't amount to much, which is fine. The series is pretty dumb and funny, so I don't care that there isn't a big emphasis on its narrative. However, like I said, there are still developments during these chapters. We get to see Nagisa's mom, Mukai places first on his school's exam, and everyone at school finds out about him two-timing. Again, it isn't anything major, but it's enough where I feel like the plot is progressing in some way. Anyway, shortly after all of this happens, Mukai goes on a date with each girl separately. They're all fun, but Nagisa's was by far the most cringeworthy. We find out that Nagisa likes reading manga, and one of her favorite series is called Rent a Boyfriend. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The two of them go to a love hotel and Mukai starts reading the entire Rent-A-Girlfriend manga. They reference a bunch of scenes and characters from the series and it's so cringy. But then again, I enjoy suffering from cringe, which is why this was one of my favorite chapters. Anyway, everyone else has fun with Mukai, but then shit hits the fan at the end of Saki's date. She gets upset that Mukai treats every other girl the same as her, so she tells him that she can't accept him two-timing after all. Shino and Nagisa then tell Mukai that they'll both give up on him if Saki can't agree to him two-timing. Rika also yells at him for being a gigantic piece of shit since he doesn't understand how lonely and jealous all the girls have been this entire time. Mukai then finally gets some character development and realizes that maybe, just maybe, two-timing isn't realistically possible. You can't live a normal life with 2, 3, or even 4 women since that's scummy and messed up. But at least Mukai learns that his fantasy of having his own harem can't happen and... Are you fucking kidding me? So literally 2 chapters later, Mukai tells everyone that he knows that they feel like shit at times since they can't have him to themselves. To account for this, he's going to make them so happy that it'll overpower their suffering.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Good luck with that, you piece of shit.
You jerk.
Anyway, Nagisa explains to Saki that she wants them both to be happy and is still in favor of Mukai two-timing them. She also says that if given the choice between Mukai two-timing them or having him all to herself, she'd rather have him two-time them.
What the fuck?
What the Sigma is wrong with you people? Why would you rather share Mukai instead of being in a normal relationship with him and having him all to yourself? Do you not realize that all of you can still be friends if only one of you is dating him? I know it'll be very awkward at first, but I'm sure you'll all get used to it and move on from him. By the way, just a friendly reminder that none of you guys would be in this situation if Mukai wasn't a scumbag and if Saki just learned to be assertive.
Be assertive!
Anyway, Saki once again accepts Mukai two-timing. I mean, three-timing her because now Shino becomes one of Mukai's sluts too.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so now Mukai is dating Saki, Nagisa, and Shino, which means the only bimbo left out is Rika. Will Rika end up joining Mukai's harem, or will Mukai become smarter than Stephen Hawking's, dump all three of them, and choose Rika? We'll find out shortly after, but before that, it's finally time for the Waifu War, where we officially find out who's best and worst girl.
Number 4.
Before rewatching the series, I only enjoyed Mukai and Rika and didn't care for anyone else. Nagisa I originally ranked as second best girl, but only because Shino was barely in season 1, and I guess because Saki was more of a big old soon. But as you can tell, Nagisa is unfortunately now worst girl, mainly because she just isn't as fun or interesting as the others. She's still alright, and I don't dislike her, but again, she's clearly the least distinct of the 4 girls. She did spend a bunch of time trying to find something she's good at, so that's something, I guess. But besides that, she's just a typical shy big boba girl.
Number 3.
Saki is pretty fun, dumb, and also a good tsundere. Like I've said before, I'm not usually a big fan of tsuns, but I usually enjoy them if they aren't giant pieces of shit. Saki is a tsundere, but she's not one who constantly screams and acts like she's on her period 90% of the time. She does get angry and beats the poo-poo out of Mukai, but she usually has a pretty good reason for doing so. Just another friendly reminder, Mukai is fucking two-timing her, so she has the right to get angry at him whenever she wants. Then again, Saki is also very stupid for allowing Mukai to two-time her in the first place. She should grow a pair of balls and turn into a futanari, then rip his spinal cord out and kill him for trying to cheat on her. But at the same time, this is also one of the charming aspects of Saki. She is a very good person, although part of that comes from her being a gigantic retard. She's a flawed character, which makes her both fun and interesting. There's times where I feel bad for her being two-time, but then again, she was also the one who agreed to it, so that's sort of her fault too.
Number 2.
Before I had Shino as worst girl, although like I said, that's entirely due to her not doing much in the first season. After watching season 2 though, I enjoyed her a lot more and was having trouble deciding whether she was better than Saki or not. That's the main reason why I held off on doing the Waifu War until now, since I had a feeling I'd like her more in the manga. Shino gets the most development out of all the characters. She starts off as someone who's strongly against Mukai two-timing and wants to do everything she can to get him to dump Nagisa. However, as the series goes on, she cares less and less about this and even wants to be a part of his harem too. The main reason why she was so stubborn and struggled was because Saki is her best friend. Obviously, she can't just seduce Mukai and get him to dump both Saki and Nagi, otherwise she'd be an asshole. But then again, she'd be doing it because she loves him, so I guess that's actually okay.
No.
Anyway, it's satisfying seeing Shino develop and admit her feelings to Mukai. Again, she's the only character who really gets this much development, since everyone else more or less stays the same. That's why Shino is second best, although as you've guessed, there's just one hot mama who's clearly the best.
What?
Yeah, Rika is still best girl. Almost nothing has changed about her, except that I like her even more now. What makes Rika best girl is that she's obviously extremely clingy, aggressive, and will do anything to get Mukai's Weenie Hut Jr. However, she wasn't like this at the start, since the main reason she wanted Mukai was because he rejected her. So because she's so prideful and stubborn, she went after Mukai simply because she hates losing, which is pretty funny. But of course, she does quickly and genuinely fall for him, because of course she does. Another thing that makes Rika distinct is that she's the only girl who continually refuses to be a part of Mukai's harem. Shino was against it at first, but now she, Saki, and Nagisa are all his little sluts. But Rika doesn't want that, since she's stubborn and also isn't dumb enough to get into a relationship like that. Anyway, Rika is best girl. If you disagree, then you should go and get your head examined by John F. Kennedy. Alright hipsters, we're back, and now it's time to talk about the final arc. So the year is coming to an end, which means Rika's time to convince Mukai to date her, and only her, is almost up. Mukai tells Rika that Saki, Nagisa, and Shino are all dating him, and knows that Rika will refuse to be a part of his harem. So he tells her that he'll reject her with all his might, because he's a fucking asshole. However, Rika won't go down easily, so she spends the next few weeks uploading and making Mr. Beast videos non-stop, which gets her to over 1 million subscribers on MeTube. This makes Mukai fall more in love with her, but sadly, it's just not enough. Mukai is an enormous stubborn piece of human-horse hybrid fecal matter and rejects her for like the 87th time. Shortly after this, Rika begins live streaming and confesses to all her fans that she's in love with Mukai. This results in her losing over 100,000 subscribers in the span of like 20 minutes, which is so fucking stupid and unrealistic, but also funny. Mukai was watching the stream, and of course, once it ends, he rush bees towards Rika and
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Yeah, so after all this time, Mukai still hasn't learned a fucking thing. He won't dump Saki, Nagisa, and Shino, but instead wants Rika to join his harem. How stubborn and stupid can this inhuman infested incel loser be? She's been telling you non-stop that she's not into 2, 3, or 4 timing. If you're going to date her, you've got to dump those other bimbos so she could have you all to herself. There's no way you're going to get away with 4 timing. I am this close to screaming at the top of my lungs, but I don't want to get a noise complaint and get thrown out of my apartment, so I'm going to do my absolute best to control myself. I can't stand this ending. I fucking detest it. The biggest problem with this is that it butchers and ruins Rika's character. For the entire series, she's been completely against the idea of being just another girl in Mukai's harem. She's been super stubborn, and the reason for this was to show Mukai that 2 timing is morally wrong. If he wants to date someone, he has to date them and only them. So Rika refusing to go out with him would have been a giant middle finger to him. But for whatever reason, she just gives up, because I guess it'd be unsatisfying for Rika fans if she was the only one who didn't end up with Mukai. But as a Rika fan, to that I say, no. This is so much worse than her being rejected and not ending up with Mukai. Like I said, this ruins her character so much since this goes against everything she stood for before. Shino is different because she slowly changed her mind about Mukai and his 2 timing. This eventually led to her even wanting to be a part of his harem, which felt in character for her. But for Rika, this doesn't make any sense. There was never any point before this where she thought she wouldn't mind being part of Mukai's harem. This literally comes out of nowhere, and again, is only here so the series can have a harem ending. The thing is, while I don't like harem endings, I would be much more okay with this if Rika simply rejected Mukai. She wouldn't be part of his harem, but Saki, Nagisa, and Shino would. Again, I wouldn't be a fan of that ending, but at least it wouldn't ruin Rika's character. Plus, it would also make Mukai lose for the first time in the series, which would be nice since everything has been going his way this entire time.
I can break these cuffs.
Another reason why I can't stand this ending is because it reminds me a lot of Masamune's Revenge's ending. If you don't want to get spoiled for that, then skip to this time. Anyway, the series makes you believe that Masamune won't end up choosing the main character Aki, but instead will pick one of the side characters. That was extremely bizarre, confusing, but also exciting since it was something different. However, at the very last second, the series is like, no. Fuck you. Did you actually think Masamune wasn't going to pick the main girl? Of course he was. So yeah, that really pissed me off, and the same goes for Girlfriend's ending too. During the last arc, and even some chapters beforehand, we see that Mukai realizes that he loves Rika. He also understands that there's a lot of problems with 2 and 3 timing too. So because of this, while very small, there was a slim chance that Mukai may actually drop the whole 2 timing thing and go after Rika. Now I know that sounds insane, and yeah, I'm retarded for even thinking there's a chance that could happen, but you have to remember how stupid and weird the series is. If any series was going to do something this batshit insane and unrealistic, it'd be this one. I know it wouldn't make the most sense and would seem really weird, but again, this is Girlfriend we're talking about. If Mukai went ahead, dumped the other 3 and chose Rika, that would have been amazing. I would have been cheering, screaming, and probably would have even drank a few shots too. But no, instead we get a typical harem ending because that's what Mukai wants, so that's what Mukai gets. As soon as Saki agreed to let him 3 times Shino, I had a feeling the series was going to end like this. Before, I thought it'd either end with Mukai choosing Saki, Nagisa, or just staying with the 2 of them. I wouldn't mind him staying with just the 2 of them, although that would undermine the whole series. Basically, nothing would change since Mukai is still dating the 2 of them, so that wouldn't really work. I kinda wish we got the second most realistic outcome where Mukai realizes 2 timing isn't going to work and goes back to just dating Saki. Again, that would also undermine the series too, since it started with Mukai going out with her and it ends with Mukai going out with her. If it was written and handled well, I could see a scenario where he actually ends up with Nagisa. Maybe he realizes that Saki doesn't love him as much as he thought since she rejected him so many times beforehand. Maybe he falls for Nagisa since she works just as hard as he does. Then again, Rika does that even more, but you get what I mean. Mukai picking Shino wouldn't have made any sense, but you know what? I would have laugh my ass off if he did. That ending I'd be 100% fine with because it's so insanely stupid and out of nowhere.
Like when you first woke up, where was she? She didn't jack
your beanstalk, right?
Wait a second, who's Jack?
Anyway, that's how the manga ends. It's infuriating, stupid, annoying, useless, pathetic, wimpy, poopy, butthole, piss, ass, fart, dick, cheese. I don't like it at all, but despite all my complaints with it, I still wouldn't say it ruins the series as a whole. It brings it down from an overall good series to one that's just okay.
Okay.
So with that being said, I'm giving Girlfriend's Manga a 6.41 out of 10. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it and want to support me, you can either leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell. You can also support me on Patreon or here on YouTube by becoming a channel member starting at only 99 cents a month.
But shit, it was...
There's also a Discord server up that you can join using the link down below. Anyway, time to go work on my 7-hour review of the greatest anime of all time, Heaven's Lost Property. That'll be out eventually.
Hold on. Do we have a backup plan? I mean, what if the plane goes down?